Well guys, I screwed up. I'm building this FJ40 as you know, and I replaced all the quarter panels. I built new quarter panels for it. We got them all welded in, and I went to go put my rear doors and everything on the back here, and I noticed that while I was doing the quarter panels, somehow this tub kind of moved a little bit. I didn't brace it when I had it all torn apart, and I actually had a few comments saying to brace this thing when I had it apart, and I don't know, I didn't listen and I didn't think it would move at all. So we got a big problem here. We got a gap between our two doors. They're not on right now. You can see I have the whole roll cage and everything out of this thing, but there's a big gap between the doors, and it's not gonna look very good once I have it all done and back together. I want it right. So basically, we gotta cut this thing back apart and we gotta make it right. So here's the quarters. You can see I replaced up to this line and then down this line here. I gotta put it all back together. I'm gonna put the sides back on, put the roof back on, get it kind of halfway bolted in, and see if it's both sides that moved or if it's just one. I think it's this side. Looking at this angle here, it is, I mean, this looks like it's pitched out. I even put a square up against it, and it does look like it's pitched out, so it may just be one side. I'm really hoping what I can do is just kind of cut up here and then around this corner. I think this corner is basically what's holding this whole thing in shape. I already tried kind of squeezing it together and it doesn't want to move. So basically there's too much room between that and that right there. I don't think it's gonna be that bad to fix, but I don't know, we got to fix it. So I'm going to like I said, get the sides on, get the doors on, get the roof on, get everything kind of halfway bolted together. And like I said, I think I'm just going to try to cut up that basically where I welded before. You can see some of my welds, that's a big low spot right there, so I might beat that out or just a little bit of filler, but I want to cut maybe out to probably about right there, and we should be able to move this. I know when I had these quarter panels off, these were pretty easy to move. There's not a whole lot of rigidity with that quarter panel out. Hopefully we can get it to move. If not, I guess we'll have to live with a ugly gap there, but I think we can get it. All right, this is what we're working with. So we got everything on. You can see that gap there is a bit large, and I kind of got it pushed over. That side's not too bad. Now I just took a square here. You can see this side looks pretty square, so I think that side's good. I think the big issue is over here. You can see right there, if I can get that stayed in there. So you can see that gap there. So it looks like, obviously this didn't move down here. I didn't take any of this floor out. I did replace the back here, but all this floor was still intact. So the bottom dimension is still the same, but it's just kind of leaned out like that. So like I said, I think with game plan, cut that, and then we may have a few spot welds on the lower support here to cut out, and then I think we can get that bad boy to move in. We need about a quarter, maybe 3/8 of an inch. That'll squeeze everything together. Like I said, I drilled all these holes for the doors, just the little doors on the back here, and there was a little bit of a gap in between them. So we want to close all that up, close up this gap here, and it's just going to look so much better. So let's get cutting, see what we can do. Is it perfect? No, but it is a lot better than it was. These gaps are, I think this whole thing needs to kind of shift over a little bit this way. It's all just kind of temporarily bolted in now. So you can see that gap's kind of that way. This gap's kind of the opposite. So it does need to shift a little bit. But these doors, these lower doors anyway, actually close now. And there's no gap in the center. Before we had a gap running down the center of that. And this hinge was like smashing into this other piece because they were so far apart. Now everything works like it should, so I'm happy with that. Let's get this welded all the way up and grind that back smooth. And then these also I'll have to cut little plates for the little spacers in here. It was from the factory, there was like some rubber in there or something. I'll probably just cut some out of steel. I may have some rubber, but they do need to space out because you know obviously that's, I mean, there's no gap at all right now. If you didn't have a space there, those wouldn't close. So it actually honestly needs a little bit more of a gap there, but we are looking really good. So let's get that welded out, get that ground down, and move along to our next project. Well, there we go, guys. Doors are looking good. Are they perfect? No, they're, I mean, little low spots here and there. You can see some of the welds. I'm not too worried about it. This side is the inside and it is gonna get Raptor liner, so a lot of that will kind of hide. But for the stress I was having for doing these corners, they actually turned out pretty decent. Now I am curious what tools you guys would recommend if you were to like do this in a professional setting. No, I'm not looking for a $10,000 CNC machine, but I do kind of want to get a tool that can make this job easier instead of just like cutting little pieces here and there and welding it all together and then having to grind it all down. I know there's an easier way to do it, but I'm not really familiar with the tooling for like sheet metal work. If any of you guys know what tool, like say if you were to rebuild these doors, what tool would you use to kind of go around those corners to have that flange at the bottom and to do that in one piece? I'm not really sure. Let me know if you got any ideas. Well, let's go ahead and get these doors on, and then I want to tackle, I've had these hood latches forever. The factory latches aren't gonna work because we messed with the fenders and there's not enough room for the factory latches. So I bought some off a Jeep, like an aftermarket set. We're gonna try to get those to work. I'm just kind of anxious to get those on because we do have to fill some holes in the hood. So I want to kind of just tackle all the hole filling at once. There's a couple other holes in the floor we got to do, and then on the fenders a couple little holes. So I want to kind of get everything out of the way. That way we can just go through, fill all the holes in, get all those ground down, and then we can start our body work and paint. Well, that's a good feeling. That is the last bit of rust in this FJ. So we finally accomplished a rust-free, well, mostly rust-free anyway. That means there's surface rust on it right now. That's all gonna be blasted off, but all the nasty rust is fixed. I'm stoked. Now, let's move on to hood latches. These, like I said, these are for, let's see, a Jeep JL, whatever the hell that is. I think it's a Wrangler, a newer Wrangler, but these, I mean, these are cool, nice aluminum latches with a flag on them. I just hope they're gonna fit. I'm planning on putting these right, so the factory ones mount right here. I should have enough room to mount them right in front. Somewhere around there. I don't know. We'll see. If these don't work, we'll have to figure something else out, but I'm hoping these will do the job. Well guys, we got a slight problem. So ever since I got this thing back together, I've noticed this hood gap right here was super weird. It was way bigger at the bottom than the top, almost like the hood was pitched up. And turns out my core support was just mounted way too high. I took the core support off here, you can see, and we're gonna have to just make a new mount for it. I think the problem why it's so much higher is my new cross member here is on top of the frame, you can see, and not the, I mean the factory one I think was level with the frame. So that kind of sucks because this is basically a hinge, so you can take it off and kind of just fold the grill forward. It's not really a huge deal to me. I mean, I'll just, you know, a couple bolts, you can pull the grill off, so it's not a huge deal. But at this point, that's really the only way I can lower it. I'm not gonna go ahead and cut up that cross member. I mean, yeah, there is that little pad on it because the factory had a little mount there, but that's only 1/8 inch there. That's not gonna make enough of a difference. So I think that's a game plan. I'm just going to unbolt this, and I'm just gonna make a simple little mount for the front there. And also we gotta do a little bit more clearance. That's just a rough estimate of where we need to grind out to clear the steering box a little bit better. It was rubbing on there and I wasn't able to get that grill centered. So let's trim that, let's build a mount, and then these hood latches, they are not going to work on the side. So I think I got the grill there. I think there's just enough room to mount this right up front. And I actually like the look of it right up front there. I think it's gonna look a lot better than kind of hanging off the side. But the problem is this hood's so rounded right here and it's so angled. If it was, you know, straight up like the Jeep hoods are, it would work. But with it so angled in like that, the latch is just not gonna work. So I think we're gonna throw it on the front. Well, that ended up working out really nice. We got the bracket down here. I'm just gonna wait till I have something else to powder coat, and I'll powder coat that at the same time. But these hood latches turned out perfect. You can see, hold it nice and sturdy here, and they look, honestly, I think they look really good right there. I think they look better than on the side. So like I said, we gotta fill those holes in. This is gonna be in the future someday before we get the paint, but fill that hole, and there's a few on the floor that we gotta fill still. So other than that, we're looking really good. Like I said, this hood gap looks so much better now that we lowered the core support down and got that, you know, where it should be. I think it looks so much better. Those latches look good, and no, we don't have a hinge anymore on the front, but I don't know. I don't think it really matters to me at all. Well, we are getting closer every day to stripping this thing down for paint. Now, I am very excited for that. It's gonna be a lot of work, but this thing is gonna look so good with what I got planned for paint. So we still, like I said, gotta build sliders, and we got a few other things to do. So that's kind of the game plan. I wanna finish up basically all that, and then strip it down, drop the tub off for blast, and start getting this thing ready for paint. Well, anyways, guys, I'm out of here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Once you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.